Hello friends, today we are going to discuss about command basics. When you work as a Linux system admin, you have to work with the command administration, and for the same you need to understand how to run or execute commands in Linux. First of all, we need to understand how many ways is available to execute the commands or to run the application or programs in Linux. CentOS 8 will provide you 3 consoles to run your programs or execute the commands. When you install CentOS 8 through the graphical user interface, first you are going to get GUI console. By default, when you install CentOS in the graphical user interface, you are going to access a GNOME, that is GNU Network Object Model environment, a default console. Linux also provides you KDesktop environment to access a CentOS 8 using graphical user interface. You can access a graphical user interface by pressing Ctrl plus Alt plus F1 command. In previous operating system like CentOS 5 and 6, we were using Ctrl Alt F7 key to access the GUI console. However, since CentOS 7 and in CentOS 8, we are supposed to use Ctrl Alt F1 key to access the graphical user interface. In a graphical user interface, by default, we install a GNOME console, and as per our requirement, we could install KDE as well. In GUI console, you could use a quick launch bar and show application option to launch your required applications. It will show you all the install application, and you could just simply click and execute a required application. This is the first method which is you can use to run usually your GUI based applications. Linux also provides you text console. Basically, Linux provides you 6 text console which you could use to log in with text console and either use a same user to log in with multiple time and run different commands or applications, or you could also use different user to log in a different console. To access the text console, you can use Ctrl plus Alt plus F2 to F7 keys. Those keys combinations will provide you text console environment. If I press Ctrl Alt F4, I can access another text console where I could log in with the same user or with a different user and perform a different operation. So Linux by default will provide you 6 text console and 1 graphical user console. Linux will also provide you called virtual console. We have unlimited virtual console in Linux, which we could access by using graphical user interface. Unlimited means it is completely depend on how much RAM you have in your system and how many consoles you can be open at the same time, depending upon your RAM availability. You could access a virtual console by accessing terminal session in GUI mode. So here by default you can see we logged in with the current user. By using, we are accessing the terminal sessions. However, if you wanted to log in with another user, we can use SU, which is switch user command, and can be logged in with the different user. For example, SU MBPS, and I can see now I logged in with the MBPS user. At the same time, I can access number of or a virtual console. To access a virtual console, you could use Shift Ctrl T button, which will give you another console. You can also use File and New tab to access the new console. Now, the first golden rule of Linux. Linux usually consider or maintain the information into the file. For example, for Linux, file is a file and folder also the file. Even though the running applications, processes, kernel, your screen, connected devices, for example, pen drive, CD, hard disk drive, printer, scanner, every device Linux consider as a file and keep the informations of all the devices into the file. Of course, when we talk about consoles, this information's also stored into the file. When you are accessing text consoles, the informations is stored into the /dev/tty file. As you have 6 consoles, you can use tty1 for your second text console, tty3 for your third console. Similarly, when you are accessing virtual console, Linux keep the informations of virtual console into /dev/pts/0. So this is your first virtual console. If you wanted to check your console, you could use ps command and that will show you basically your current console name. If I go to the second console and check, you can see the second console name. Similarly, I can see in the third console name as well. So by default, this keep the information into /dev pts, and for every console it creates one file and keep the informations of a particular file. So when you are accessing your console to run your commands, you are going to get a shell prompt. As I said, a default shell is a bash shell for any Linux user in CentOS or Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Root @localhost tilde and hash. Let's understand what is the meaning of this shell prompt. So this first name is indicate the current login username. A next option informations about host name of your system. By default, when you install CentOS 8, it will assign local host name for your system. However, you could change this name as per your requirement. Now after the local host, a tilde symbol which represent home directory of user. However, we can say this is nothing but your current working directory. That means whenever you are into the home directory of logged in user, it will only show you a tilde symbol. But if you switch to any other working directory, it will actually show you a particular directory name instead of a tilde symbol. If I change to /var, for example, it will show me a current working directory. But whenever you back to your home directory, it will only show you a tilde symbol which will represent home directory of your login user. Now next part of hash symbol basically uses to represent super user or the user who having a full credential or full access over the system, and usually only when you log in with the root user account you will get hash user prompt. So we can easily identify we are currently logged in with root user account. Sometime you will also get dollar prompt which represent normal user account. That means when you logged in with the any other user account or other than the root account, you will usually get dollar prompt This represents a user is having a limited access over the systems. I hope you understand betterly now. Now let's discuss about Linux command syntax. When you execute any command into the Linux, we are supposed to follow a specific syntax while execution of the command. Usually we follow syntax as like this. So first of all, we are supposed to use command, then option for the command, and if required, arguments for the command. Let's take an example of one of the command called ls, which use to list the files and directories. We'll discuss in more depth about ls a bit later. Now just understand. So when you use ls command, it will basically show you list of files and directories. So if you running only a command into the Linux, it will give you some sort of informations. To get a more information from the same command, we could use some option along with the command. So the same command we could use along with the options, which will give you more information from the same command. In Linux, we could have small a to z options for the same command, or capital A to Z option for the command. We probably also going to get 0 to 9 option for the same command. When you execute any command into the Linux, it's a case sensitive. If you run ls in a small letter, it will accept as a command, but if you provide a command in a capital, it basically tells you the command is not available. However, the ls is present, and it's strictly follow case sensitivity while execution of commands. So you might have a small a to z option for the command, or capital A to Z option for the same command, and every options will provide you a different informations with the same command. Now we need to understand, whenever we use single letter option along with the any command, we use single hyphen for single letter option. However, you could use a double hyphen if you are going to use full word option along with the command. For example, ls hyphen hyphen help. So here we used double hyphen because as an option we are going to use a meaningful word. If you are going to use single hyphen along with help, Linux will consider as a hyphen h hyphen e hyphen l hyphen p option for the ls. If those options is available, it will execute the command. If not available, it will basically give an error like hyphen e is not available. So we understood, whenever we are going to use single letter options, we have to use single hyphen, and whenever we are going to use full word option along with the command, we are supposed to use double hyphen for the command. Now third section, which is argument, it is an optional part. Sometime we have to use with the command, sometime we don't need to use along with the command, or it is completely depend upon a user requirement to get the specific information from the command. For example, if I execute ls command, it will show me some kind of information. If I used some option along with the command, it will give you more information about a data. But when I wanted to get a different information, for example, I wanted to list out the files and directory from /etc, I can specify /etc as an argument to the command. And this is how we can execute any command into the Linux systems. Now we understood how to execute the commands. Now let's understand, if you wanted to run multiple commands at the same time, what option we supposed to use? Now, whenever you are going to use or wanted to execute a multiple command simultaneously, for example, I wanted to execute date, ls and cal command. I can type those commands thrice and execute, or in a single shot as well, or the same line we can provide input to your shell prompt, which will execute those commands like this. And whenever you wanted to execute multiple commands in a single line, you can use semicolon options. So a date, ls, semicolon, next command, like this you can provide number of command as an input to your shell, and it will execute those commands sequentially. Now sometime we need to combine the output of multiple commands to get the desired output. For example, ls, which give us list of files and directory, but from the current location I wanted to calculate the count of files and folder from the same location. So in Linux we have a wc command for the word count, and which we could use as an input to the same command. If you wanted to combine the output of multiple command, you could use pipe and your second command. Now how this will execute? Your shell prompt will execute the first command and provide a input data to the second command. So instead of output, now your second command will take the input from the first command and will count it. This is how we usually combine the multiple command together and get the desired output from the systems. I hope now you understood how we can run a multiple command, or how we can combine the output of multiple command. Thank you so much. We'll cover up the rest of topic in upcoming sessions. Bye.